Hello, my name is Lena. I was born in a small, quiet town in Europe. A girl whose name was spoken with softness, but the path life chose for me was anything but gentle. My story didn't begin with horror, but it certainly began with ugliness. I was born into a family that, from the outside, appeared cultured, educated, and refined, but in truth, it was rotten, hollow, and poisonous from within. My mother's eyes always held an exhaustion that never left. And my father, he was a powerful, cruel man who only cared about his name, his honor, and his will. My crime? I was a girl, and they wanted a boy. That's all. I still remember when I turned 6, a small birthday cake with white frosting appeared. I blew the candles out in joy, only to hear my uncle mutter, "What's she so happy about? It's all a waste. She's just another burden on the family." My mother told me to stay quiet, but from that moment, it was etched into my young eyes. I was extra, unwanted, unacceptable. My family cherished two things: honor, even if built on lies; control, even if it broke spirits. When I turned 9, my father decided to send me away to a cousin in another country. They said it was for better education, better upbringing. But the truth? They were ashamed of me. My questions, my dreams, my freedom, they all defied their rules. When I was 12, tragedy struck. My grandmother, the only person who ever loved me, passed away suddenly. Her dying wish was to keep me with her, but my aunt wouldn't let me stay. And so, I ended up in an orphanage. That was the moment I broke completely. But that was also when a seed was planted. The seed of revenge. The orphanage looked like an old war hospital. Peeling paint on the walls, freezing cold in the night, and the same stale bread for food every day. But the real pain wasn't outside, it was what happened within. I stayed quiet, but I saw everything: the abuse of children, the exploitation by staff, the cruelty of the supervisors. I studied by day, and at night, I wrote secretly. I started keeping a record of every injustice, drawing maps, taking secret notes. This became my homework for revenge. Brain lesson 1. Power isn't just in wealth or strength. It's in knowledge. I had made up my mind. I wasn't just going to survive. I was going to make them pay, all of them. My family. The monsters who threw me away like garbage. One night, I looked up at the stars and saw the face of my grandmother. And I made a promise. "Grandma, I swear, one day, I'll show them that being a girl isn't a curse, it's power. And when that day comes, their hands will tremble, their eyes will fall, and I'll be the storm they never saw coming. Silence can become the loudest scream." I wrote that after what happened one night. In the orphanage, the pain wasn't just harsh, it was inhuman. Children were beaten, cursed at, and sometimes locked in dark rooms, all in the name of discipline. I will never forget the night little Nora, just 10 years old, was punished for laughing at bedtime. She was locked in the cold basement for hours. When they opened the door, she was shivering, soaked, eyes swollen from crying. That night, I made my decision. Directed Plan 1, the file of truth. I took an old, torn bag and started writing everything. What day a child was beaten, which staff member raised their hand on whom, when the lights were cut to scare us, when doors were locked. I wrote in a secret code, a mix of Urdu and German that only I understood. My grandma had taught me Urdu when I was little. Detective Plan 2, strike from within. I needed help. There was no one except Ruth. Ruth, 2 years older than me, quiet, but with a fire in her eyes. One day, I silently offered her a glass of milk when her hands were bruised. Later that night, she came to me. "You're Lena, right? I see the same fire in your eyes, the fire to fight back." That day, we made a promise. We're not just children. We're warriors. We began to act. We snuck into the library one night and found an old tape recorder. We fixed it and started recording. Supervisors yelling, slaps, crying, even secret conversations. We hid the recordings under the bottom drawer of a cabinet. We called it File 7. Megaphone Plan 3. Let the world see. We needed the outside world. There was one way: a letter. I wrote a secret letter with all our evidence and passed it to a visiting professor who came monthly. I hid it inside a book. She looked into my eyes and simply said, "You are brave, child. Everything will be okay." 3 weeks later, it happened. The door burst open one morning. For police officers, a journalist, and social workers stormed in. The orphanage woke up in chaos. Staff ran. Some lied, some tried to hide us, but we stood tall, me, Ruth, and a few others, with a bag of proof. And for the first time, our silence screamed Sparkle's victory. The supervisors were suspended, cases filed, and the orphanage shut down. We were moved to safe homes. For the first time, someone remembered my birthday. That was my second birthday. The birth of a new Lena. But my war wasn't over. My real enemies were still out there. My family, the ones who called me a mistake, and now walked around as respected, wealthy elites. But they didn't know. Their forgotten mistake was returning. And this time, she was called revenge. I waited for years. From a cold orphanage basement to becoming the head of a major European humanitarian organization. I never forgot my past. Because I knew the people who destroyed my childhood were still sleeping peacefully on pillows stuffed with secrets. Candle the return begins. I was now 27. I had power, resources, and a new identity. Lena Weinreich, human rights activist, European youth ambassador. But deep inside me lived the abandoned child, and that child was about to speak to the world. Open 5 folders. Step 1. Legal poison. I began investigating my real family. The Albrecht family, owners of one of Germany's top textile companies, Albrecht Textiles. They were about to receive a major investment. Success was knocking, but I was going to knock them down. I had lawyers from my NGO release a report exposing their labor violations. Child labor. Unsafe factories. Forged documents. The investor backed out. Their stock crashed 47%. My uncle, now the CEO, was shaken. He had no idea who had poisoned the empire so precisely. Woman Detective Step 2. Unmasking the family. I revealed myself during a live CEO interview on video call. I'm Lena, also known as Elena Albrecht, the one you sent to rot in an orphanage at 8. I'm not here for an apology. I'm here to watch your empire fall. For the first time, their eyes didn't show guilt. They showed fear. Fire. Step 3. The world watches. I created a documentary, The Color of Blood, a girl's testimony. It exposed every secret they buried. How my father was poisoned by his own brother for inheritance. How my mother was declared mentally unstable and locked away. How I was illegally disinherited. Everything was public. Balance scale. The final judgment. They were dragged into court. My uncle and 2 cousins were convicted of financial fraud and conspiracy. Their company collapsed. Their homes were auctioned. Their faces now wore the same grief I had once seen in orphaned children. But my victory wasn't in their ruin. My real victory was becoming the voice I once needed. Reminder ribbon. I created a foundation, The Color of Blood, for children abandoned by families. Scholarships. Legal aid. Emotional therapy. Everything I once wished for. Revenge is poison, but when it becomes justice, it turns into medicine. And I gave that medicine to the world. Lena's story ends, but every child lost in the dark now has a light. If you like this story, so please subscribe our channel for more stories.